Guys, my cutting board is in bad shape. I've neglected this thing for months and I need to completely redo it. And that's what I'm gonna do today. I'm Phil, this is Community Woodcraft. Let's get into it. This is the current status of my cutting board. I don't know if those scratches are really coming through, but I need to get those out and I need to get this redone. And honestly, I made this when I was just first learning how to do cutting boards. I made it as an edge grain cutting board, but I want to convert it to an end grain cutting board. And to do that, I'm gonna have to go into my scrap pile. And I got this piece of sapele just yesterday, as of this recording. I went and I got this piece of sapele from burn pile at my local mill workplace. And that's actually gonna be what this video is about. This is gonna be part one of a 3-part series. I'm gonna convert this slab of sapele into an end grain cutting board, but I'm not gonna finish it. I'm gonna use this to cut up and I'm gonna incorporate it into this. I'm gonna cut this, I'm gonna convert this to an end grain cutting board with elements of this inside of it. It's gonna make sense, it's gonna come out really good, but you're gonna have to stay with me for this video, stay with me for the next video, and a third part is gonna be a custom cutting board that I'm gonna finish with parts of this as well. So let's get at it. So if we take a closer look at this piece of sapele, this is a huge slab of sapele, and you would wonder why they're throwing it away. I got this for free out of a burn pile, and this is pretty much why. It's really, really bad. Cup and bowed. I don't know if this is gonna give us what we want, but I'm gonna try. And to do that, I need to send this through my planer, and I'm gonna use this flat surface here. I gotta put some shims in it. I'm gonna use this shim here, and I'm gonna use this shim here. And if I do that, the rocking goes away. And by the way, this flat surface I got out of the same burn pile yesterday, same trip that I made. So in order to get this done, I'm going to hot glue these shims down, and then we're gonna send this through my planer and we're gonna see if we can get it straight. I would normally draw some pencil marks on anything that I run through the planer just to know that it's gone through everything that it needs to. But these saw marks from the mill are so deep that when these are gone, it's done. And we can take this off and do the other side.
When I started planing this board, it was so uneven, it was barely scraping the top, but I had to take small passes. And when I got this board, there were already planer marks on it. Like they started and gave up because it was in such bad shape. But stick around until the end and you'll see why I'm glad I didn't give up on it.
That worked really well. I do have a couple cracks. I'm gonna worry about that in a little bit. Might get rid of it, might be able to salvage it. We'll see. I got a little snipe, that's okay. I can sand that down. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna get this off, I'm gonna flip it over, and we're gonna plane the other side. Flipped over, looking really rough. We're really low right here and here, really high here, here, and here. I'm gonna run it through the planer and see what we can salvage, see what we can get out of it.
And I'm still taking shallow passes here because guys, this Wen planer isn't the greatest, but I've had it for a few years, so I'm still trying to take care of it as much as I can.
We're done planing and it came out really good. I have the comparison board for the before, and this one has a really bad rock in it. We got this straight, we got it flat, it's not rocking anymore, so which is great. My next step, I need to sand this down. After that, I'm gonna head to the jointer and I'm gonna make sure that one of these edges are straight.
Just real quick, I wanted to thank everyone who has already subscribed to the channel. I couldn't believe that 100 of you were interested in seeing me do this hobby in my garage. But now we're already close to 200 subscribers, which is crazy to me. And I appreciate all of you for helping grow the channel. I want to cut this into square strips, so I'm setting my fence to the board's width.
All right, so I just cut this board up so I can glue it back together. But before I do that, I want to reorient the grain pattern, because after we glue this up, we're gonna cut it into our end grain board. And I just want the grain to have a different pattern. I drew some arrows, and I want the arrows to just kind of do something like this. And that's why I cut it in a square, so they would all fit back together. So instead of all pointing up, they're all in different directions. It's gonna look a lot better when we cut it into our end grain.
And here's the first of many glue ups. If you've ever made a cutting board, or an end grain cutting board at that, you know what I mean. And somehow, I still feel like I need more clamps.
And it's about 30 minutes later, so I am gonna take off all these clamps. I'm gonna scrape off the glue. I'm gonna put the clamps back on. Glue's doing its job. Got it. Doing this now is just gonna help later. If it becomes really hard, it's gonna be harder to even sand off.
Getting as much of that glue off as you can before it fully hardens is one of the best things that you can do for yourself.
All right, so I didn't get all of it, but I got enough to make my future self happy when I'm sanding this later. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the clamps back on this, and we are done for the day. Here we go with day 2. Let's get these clamps off. All right, our glue up is good to go. I'm gonna hit this with some really low grit sandpaper. I might start with 60, move up to 80. I wanna get as much of this glue off as I can because we're gonna resend it through our planer. So I'm gonna clean up this edge on my table saw, and then I'm gonna cut it into 1.5 strips, and then we're gonna flip it up on its side, and then it's gonna be an end grain cutting board. So that's where we're gonna go next. And you see on my table saw, I don't have a sled. So how am I gonna do that? Well, this Evolution table saw comes with this built-in feature. I'm gonna slide that in there. This is not sponsored. This is just a table saw that I saw and I liked it and I bought it. So I'm gonna put that in place. I'm gonna release the pin on the bottom and it slides just like a sled would. And I don't have to make my own. I don't have to buy another one for the price of a DeWalt. I picked this up and I really enjoy it. And these strips are gonna be 1.5 inch.
Cutting these strips and putting together the end grain pattern, that's where we start to see our work paying off. I do have a second glue up later in the video, and you're gonna see me get some kickback when I cut these strips. But you'll also see a trick I learned from the Stammers YouTube channel to manage that kickback. So stay tuned.
So we have our board cut into thin strips. What I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna flip it up. There we go. There's our board. And what you can do, we're gonna flip every other one around. We can switch up not just the grain pattern, because they're all squares, but the color looks good. So we're gonna glue this up and we're gonna be done for today.
And here we go with glue up number 2. And if you made it this far, don't forget to give the video a like. I'd also appreciate any comments you guys have. Being a small channel, I can keep track of the comments and I try to reply to them as soon as I can.
I've also had these strips that I've been meaning to glue up for cutting boards. So while that's drying, I'm gonna go ahead and glue these up.
And glue up number 3 begins.
We're gonna wait for this to dry, and then we're gonna cut it into strips like we did the other one. We're back, it's the next day. This glue is all dried up, so we're gonna remove all the clamps. I'm gonna hit this with probably some 60 grit, get as much of this glue off as I can, and then we'll get it over to the planer. Now I just got done with this at the planer. I'm about to straighten up this edge here on my table saw, and I got my fence set to 1.5 inches. Once I have a flat edge here, I'm gonna cut this into 1.5 inch sections.
Now see if you can learn this skill that I just learned.
Okay, we have these pieces cut now, and since I have these pieces cut at a certain width here, and this last piece is half the width of these here, if we flip them up, we're gonna see that pattern. And if we flip every other piece over, we're gonna see that brick pattern form. All right, we're gonna do the same here. And we're gonna flip them over. Then what I'd like to do is maybe do something like this. And we get like the sort of chaos brick pattern here. You see, you gotta kind of play with it to make sure that the pattern doesn't repeat too often. All right, some of these do have cracks, and I'm gonna have to fill those in, but this is gonna be a board for me, so I'm not gonna worry too much about that. Let's get to gluing up. I might save some of these pieces for something else, but yeah, let's get to that. All right, so I got these separated here. I got 5, 5, 3, 3, and 5. And I'm gonna glue these 5 together. I'm gonna glue these 5, these 3, and these 3. These 5, I'm gonna set these aside for a rainy day, because my project's kind of evolving in my head as I go. So glue these together, and what I'm gonna do with it is gonna come in a future video. So you're gonna have to stay with me on this cutting board series. I'm gonna start to glue these up, and here we go.
Is this glue up 4 or 5? I honestly forgot, but I think it's the last one.
All right, guys, while we're waiting for our other glue up, I took the other cutting board out of the clamps. We're good to go. Now, I don't have a drum sander. I wish I did, and I don't have a router jig. So I'm gonna try my best with my belt sander to flatten this out. Don't laugh at me, but it's what I got, so it's what I'm gonna use. Once I get this flat enough that I like it, I'm gonna do the other side. Then I'm gonna come back with my orbital sander. I'm using 60 grit with my belt sander. I'm gonna use 80 grit with my orbital sander, and I'm gonna stop there. Because I'm not gonna finish it in this video, I'm gonna use this in a future video, and it'll all make sense when you come back and watch that one. So let's get started.
I'll spare you from all the sanding, but you get the idea.
Okay guys, I got this out of the clamps. It's flattened pretty well. It's got some spots on it that I'm not really happy about. Got some cracks in the end grain. I might have to fill those in with fillers, but when that happens, I really wouldn't recommend it being a cutting board. It'd be more like a serving tray, charcuterie type board. but I'm gonna grab the camera and I'm gonna show you what I'm talking about. All right, here we are up close, and I'm really not worried about the edges because for what I wanna do with this, I'm probably gonna cut off a lot of the edges anyway, so you won't see that, you won't see that. There's some tear out on the other side you won't see, but I don't like these cracks in there, so I'm gonna have to fill them in. And we'll either call it charcuterie board or this might end up just a decoration in my shop here. Here's also this board that we did. Now, my initial thought with this board was to cut this up and implement elements of this into my personal board that I want to redo, but I kind of like this too much. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to straighten up these edges, and I'm going to call this just a board by itself. I really don't want to cut this up. It looks nice, and I think I'm going to give it to my sister. So I'm going to make her watch the video and comment in order to receive it, but I think it's going to go to her. Let me take care of that, and then we're going to be done with this video. All right, guys, so we're at the end of this video. This board that I just need to finish. I have this board that I was originally gonna cut this up and put in here somewhere. I'm not gonna do that. So next week, I'm gonna work on converting this to an edge grain to an end grain cutting board. And I think I wanna make it a chaotic pattern. So I'm gonna try that for the first time. So we'll see that. And then this is gonna be probably the week after that. I have another board that I've been working on, and this is going to be incorporated into part of that. So 3-part series, 3 boards. We're going to see how they all end up. If you like this content, go ahead and make sure you subscribe, like, drop me a comment, and stay up to date on these builds. So I appreciate you watching all the way to the end. See you in the next one.